Thanks, Adam.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so Hannah, we can't talk about beards, but I can talk about hair. This is my pre-COVID hair, so not sure if it's the same for you, but thanks for joining and being on the panel with me. Can you talk a little bit about what is JibJab for those people who don't know, and what is your role at JibJab?
Sure. So for those that don't know what JibJab is, we are an e-card company at a high level. At a deeper level, we are a content site, right? We create really quality, creative and videos that you can send to your family and your friends. And really, at the end of the day, our goal is to bring joy to as many people as possible, right? As the director of user acquisition at JibJab, I have the lucky position of being able to try to capture as many people, right, to get to know our product, use it, and continue to spread joy. So definitely a great product, especially during COVID times, which I'm sure we'll get to in a little bit.
Yeah. So from what I remember before, you guys were heavy into political humor, and I remember back in those days. So what made the company's impetus change from that over to more of the current content that you're doing?
Sure. In a world where politics was kind of fun, right? You could poke fun at one side or the other. We did a great job, I think, of being unbiased in kind of deciding who to make fun of, right? But as the political climate has changed over the last 4 or 6 years, it's not quite as fun anymore, right? The kind of comments that we're getting, the feedback that we get, it's very divisive, and it's a place that we would love to be in, but where the conversations are right now, I think we'd rather be in a place where we're spreading joy. We have this fantastic e-card product, and we are creating a lot of really good and funny content, right? So why not promote that, and why not let that be kind of the focus of what we do at JibJab?
Makes sense. Now, from a competitive perspective, I know there's a lot of different things. I remember, like, around Christmas time, those elves and all those guys dancing around. So what do you guys look at that as? Is that competitive, or is that the best form of flattery? What do you look at from that perspective?
Sure. I mean, we've worked with and we've partnered with a lot of those companies in the past. So we don't necessarily think of them as competition, right? We're all kind of in this content creation space. I will say that one of the things that really has impressed me with JibJab is we create really high quality content, right? Like, we have a creative team that is, makes up the bulk of the team, actually, internally. And, if people could hear the kind of conversations that happen in those creative meetings, these guys are brilliant, right? And they come up with really funny content. And, we don't necessarily just stick with one thing, right? We try different things, we try different partnerships. And I think for that reason, we've had a lot of success in continuing to drive retention with our audiences and to drive new user growth, right? So definitely a field that I think we're winning in terms of quality.
Yeah, I did notice, a lot of the times when you go onto some of these other sites and you try to do the mix, it doesn't really look like me. It looks like I'm blended in with somebody. Do you guys, how do you guys handle stuff like that? Do you have a special secret sauce you use, or how do you guys differentiate against some of these?
Yeah, we definitely have sauce. I'm not going to tell you guys exactly what that is, but we do like to play on the kitsch, right? It's a fun product. We're not trying to, there have been a lot of other products that have come out recently that where you can kind of use an AI, right, and pop a face in, right? And what we find is lacking there is the kitsch, the fun, right? We have these giant heads that kind of are very JibJab-esque, right? Very, very JibJab branded. Those those jaw cuts where the jaws are kind of moving up and down. It's kitschy and it's fun, and it's something that you can send to your family, and they know immediately what it is, and they immediately, find joy out of it, right? And start laughing, send it to their friends. So, um, yeah, we do a lot of work to get there. I know it doesn't necessarily look like these, AI softwares that are out there, but we do a lot of work to make sure the hair looks right, right? Like the jaw cuts move in sync with the music. There's a lot of work that our creative team does to make sure that this looks, 100% kitsch.
Yeah, I don't look anything like those people, so I do appreciate the fact that it's my face. So. Now you're in charge of user acquisition, right? So, what are the primary media channels that you guys are using to be, to go acquire users?
Yeah, our top channel right now is Facebook and Instagram. Um, the way that we think about acquisition is, where are our users, right? We can go and uh, test into TikTok or Snap, which we have done. However, is our user, who tends to be, a female 25 and up, right? Does that person necessarily live in TikTok? Not so much, right? They're in Facebook, they're on Google search, they're on Bing, they're in the affiliate space, right? Partnerships is huge for us, organic, social, and search, right? So when we look for where we can acquire users, we really look in the spaces that our users currently live on the internet. Display as well, right? Websites that are highly trafficked by this age group.
Makes sense. So how has that philosophy changed since you've been at JibJab, or did you create that media focus? And where do you see that going? Do as the next generation comes about, where do you see that?
Sure, we've been in a lot for a long time. And, you know, I think the only thing when it comes to the future of media is that it's going to change. And whatever is popular and everyone's in right now, that's going to move to some other channel, right, at some point. So we've been in a lot of these spaces in the past. We've really focused over the last 3 years on um, making those channels efficient, and ensuring that we're kind of spreading our user acquisition efforts across as many different channels as we can. The other thing that we do is we spend a lot of time testing and thinking about where we want to test into. I think that's the best way to think about marketing, right, is to constantly be testing, right? Your audience changes day to day. The types of messaging they want to hear changes day to day. The creative that you use in one platform to another, that changes, right? And even within those platforms, it changes all the time, right? So a good example for us is we used to play very well in the right-hand rail of Facebook, right? And as that's disappeared, we've kind of been testing different types of creative that works in the newsfeed, and found that video creative tends to work very well because people can immediately understand the value prop of our product.
Okay. So with the pandemic and with all the stuff that's going on, have you seen your budget decrease? I mean, I've seen that in my world, dealing with a lot of companies. I've seen budgets have fluctuated. Are you feeling pinched there, or are you guys staying pre-COVID levels? How are you guys dealing with that?
Yeah, COVID has kind of been for a lot of retailers online. We've seen that explosive growth in usage. Um, JibJab has followed that same pattern, especially early in the pandemic when you weren't sure whether writing a card and sending it would send COVID along to that person, right? I think people really saw us as a solution. I think over the time of the last 8 months now, right? We've done a great job of creating content that people want to send during the pandemic. So our content efforts, our creative efforts have skyrocketed, and we've seen explosive user growth, largely due to that, right? Of course, we're spending more in all of our engines right now, and we have been for the last 5 months. But I'd really say that what's helped drive that and sustain it, right? Because now we know you can send a card, you'll be fine, right? But why are we continuing to see good growth is because our content's really high quality. Our creative team has come up with funny cards related to the quarantine, right? We had a card that we produced and put out called Happy Quarantine Birthday. Just a hilarious original song. We talk about like Tiger King in there, pretty much anything related to the quarantine. And we've seen those cards perform, exceptionally. So definitely have seen that growth in terms of usage, seen the growth in terms of new users, and definitely the growth in terms of spend across our media channels.
Gotcha. You guys are primarily working from home, like most other folks. Has that changed any philosophies, or has that made any difference in your job, or it's just status quo as before?
Yeah, I think our company actually did a great job. JibJab did a great job of switching to work from home. In the past, we'd actually always had a one-day work from home benefit kind of at work. So most of us had systems set up for that. But we were quick. Our CEO was jumped on it right away. He knew that this was going to be a pretty big pandemic. We were one of the first companies to go to quarantine. And during that time, I think we were able to get a lot of the supplies we needed for our homes to ensure that we, were able to work. I think overall, our company's always been online, right? We use Slack channels quite a bit, right? I'm guessing the thing that is the hardest during this time is culture, right? How do you keep a culture alive and sustained, right? How do you keep creative engaged and creating great content? And I think a lot of that has really been culture, right? We've done a really good job there. We had a social distance ice cream party where JibJab sent all of us ice cream via delivery, and then we all jumped on a Zoom and kind of ate ice cream together and hung out. We do lunches together on Zoom. We have a lot of Slack channels. We have one called Listening Party where we all come up with kind of different mixtapes and we chit chat about those together. So yeah, I think we've done a great job in terms of not just moving the work home and being able to communicate with each other, but we've done a great job of sustaining the culture at JibJab and even being able to bring people on board and immediately kind of ingratiate themselves into the JibJab culture that exists now.
What are you thinking about, like, the future, right? So eventually, this, hopefully, God willing, this pandemic and those of you that believe in God. So what do you think 12 to 18 months out, 24 months out? What does the future look like for JibJab?
Yeah, I mean, I think we are going to be. Yeah, I think I've mentioned this a bunch, but we have always focused on high quality content. I think COVID has kind of been a time where people are online and they're able to kind of access that content and utilize it, try it out, see if they like it. I think that's a really promising sign for JibJab, right? You think of e-cards, it's an industry that kind of had a peak and has kind of, leveled off since then. But I think the future of the internet is e-cards and high quality content, right? Like at the end of the day, what is Instagram? What is TikTok? It's high quality content, right? It's high quality creative that people are putting together. We've just packaged it in a way that you can send it to your mom or your grandma, right? Or your sister, your brother, pretty easily. So I have a lot of faith in kind of that retention strategy that we can work with to retain those users. And a lot of that's based on high quality content. And then marrying that with the data that we have to kind of figure out who our highest lifetime value customers are, right? How to kind of segment out our customers, build lookalikes, And I think that one of the biggest fears that have been in the marketing space over the last year has really been pixels, right? Pixels are going away, right? And we need to have solutions for this, right? Um, and I think that this actually helps us build a customer profile in a way that we have done in the past, but we can get a little more accurate with that customer profile, right? And we can understand where that customer lives and find them, not necessarily through pixels or through kind of chasing them around the internet, but knowing where they live and where they breathe on the internet, right? So um, I think this is a good thing, and I think this is gonna help a lot of people, kind of a lot of marketers especially, get to know their customers more, and hopefully learn how to personalize messaging to them without being creepy, right? And without necessarily making people concerned about what's happening on the internet when they're on Facebook or Instagram.
Yeah, I mean, data is near and dear to my heart. That's what we do. So, so that's the next point is how do you keep it from being creepy and Big Brother is watching you and that kind of thing. So, what are you guys looking at from the data and analytics perspective to where you can still do the targeting, the segmenting, within a cookieless, pixelless world going forward without being creepy, right? I mean, I think that's the holy grail for everything. But what are your philosophies on that? What are you guys doing?
Yeah, at the end of the day, look, I've been doing marketing for a while. I've done a lot of paid, a lot of lower funnel, mid funnel stuff. Um, I've always felt that that's a problematic way to do marketing, right? While you're looking at efficiencies, are you truly looking at efficiencies, right? When you look at all these different marketing channels and their attributions, right? The way that they're setting up attribution windows, are you just deduping across many different channels as you're testing, right? Probably, right? And whatever your goal is to get there, you're probably spending 2 to 3 times as much for those users, right? So by getting that low funnel, have we truly become more efficient, right? Or are we just kind of hitting the same customers over and over and over in different channels? I am a proponent of kind of moving up in the funnel and really hitting the customer at all parts of the journey, right? And I think if you have a high quality product, it's much easier, right? And I think that even when you see something like the evolution of CTV, right, and where it's come, or TV in general, very high funnel, top of funnel, right? You're trying to kind of get more granular, as granular as possible, right? But at the end of the day, you should know what channels your customers are watching, right? You should know where your customer is, and you should be utilizing that data to kind of pull them into the funnel so that you can, reach out to them via email or some of your lower funnel channels to pull them back in, right? And I think that what we're going to find is similar to something like the Facebook boycott, right? I think what we're learning is channel attribution is a big problem, right, in this industry, and pixels haven't necessarily done exactly what we wanted them to do, right? So I'm actually pretty hopeful. I think that this will help us become better marketers. It'll help us to learn to speak to our customers in a more intelligent way and in a way that speaks to their emotions a little bit more and helps them understand the value of our products. Um,
No, I totally agree. You pretty much did my sales pitch there. But so that leads me to one of the questions I had with you guys are heavy in Facebook and Instagram and stuff, as you mentioned. How has the social boycott affected anything, or has it affected anything? Did it make you rethink any of your philosophies, or is this just a sidebar that just happened in the industry?
yeah, Facebook's always a very important channel for us. I think as a company, uh, we're a pretty diverse company, and we try to create a product that works for people, of all backgrounds, right? Um, I think the boycott for us was it's nice, right? Because as a marketer, sure, you have these goals and things you want to do, but at the end of the day, people are people, right? And you want to support people, right? So for us to support something like a Facebook boycott, um, for all of the reasons that were kind of brought up, uh, we're happy to do that. Now, can we do that long term and forever? Probably not, right? Our users do live on Facebook. We do have to be there to an extent. But I think what we've kind of learned coming out of that um, is Facebook, is their attribution window, a little, a little like helpful to Facebook, right? Like I think a lot of our suspicions have been confirmed. That doesn't necessarily mean we won't work in Facebook. It just means that we kind of think in new ways about how we live in that atmosphere, and how we kind of diversify uh, our marketing channels as we move forward.
So you don't do much in TV now, right? But that's everybody in marketing. That's the holy grail of marketing, and as you move through what you do. What are your thoughts on TV and CTV and streaming? How has that affected anything, or has it affected anything? Because, like you mentioned, the funnels are kind of starting to blend together now with CTV. You can do addressable and stuff like that. Has that led to any thoughts on what you guys are planning in the future, or it's okay, it's there and we'll look at it later?
Yeah, we've always been in TV during Q4. That's kind of our busiest time, Christmas, right? So we have familiarity with TV. We've worked in the TV space. We know it's important. We have ways that we kind of measure, right? Like as anyone in TV does, right? Where you say, okay, I'm seeing this kind of uh, user growth on my site after this TV commercial has aired, right? So we do try to apply some data to that. I think what we've seen in the TV landscape over time, and I know you're a TV guy, so look, I used to work FTD. We used to do a lot of business during Valentine's Day, a lot of business during Mother's Day. Um, because of Valentine's Day, we would run during the Super Bowl. Um, we I remember we pulled out of the Super Bowl ads citing price, right? And sure, the first year everything was fine, right? But if you look at the time that was those ads were pulled, um, and then they continued to kind of not be on TV during the Super Bowl. You see the brand decline over time, because TV is important, right? Branding is important. People need to know where you are. And that's always kind of stuck in my mind as something that's very important for marketers to understand. Your marketing funnel is going to die. It's going to dry out, right? Like you can't just keep remarketing and saying, "Hey, this user is really cheap. I'll just keep going after this person." You've got to fill that funnel at some point, right? So I think TV, the agencies we've worked with, there've been a lot of new agencies kind of popping up too who are saying, "Hey, here's a more data-driven model for television." We've seen that explosive growth in CTV over the last year, 2 years, which is definitely a little further down the funnel. But I think TV is doing a good job, right? Like one of my favorite things that they do right now is kind of marrying the display ads with your TV ads and tracking that user, right? And getting them to purchase down the line, right? So you get a little bit of that understanding of what's the value of the branding that I'm doing on TV, and how is that filling my funnel long term, right? So yeah, I mean, if you're a marketer and you're not in TV, especially if you're not in CTV, you should be in there, right? You should be testing it out, and looking at what happens to your brand, right? What happens to your brand search, even if that's a good indicator of kind of what's happening to your brand over
How does that affect your creative, right? So, when you're looking at doing your creatives, do you guys apply certain things for certain medium? Because a lot of times I have my customer that say, "Oh, I ran a TV ad. Can you throw this on CTV?" Right? It might not necessarily be the right thing. How do you guys look at creative versus channel versus media? You have something that you do there?
Yeah, we I've mentioned this a few times. Our creative team, stellar, right? Um, I think as marketers, what we try to do is marry their creative juices with our marketing brains, right? And say, hey, how can we not only make a commercial for TV that captures the eye, right, gets people interested, helps them understand the value prop of this product, but also get them to move down the funnel and purchase, right? So I think for TV specifically versus maybe something like Facebook or CTV even, we think about where that person is in the funnel and what next step we want from them, right? So maybe on a TV level, you're kind of top to mid funnel, right? You're like, here's our product. This is where you can find it. We have a web product, we have an app product, right? Go check it out. Versus Facebook, where we might say, hey, like here's our product. It's great. It's funny, right? You want to send it to your family. You want them to laugh, right? Here's a direct click that you can hit, right, to get to the site. We might even change up the language there and say, um, check us out at jibjab.com, right? Or click the button below, right? Because we can get them to actually click in that medium versus something like TV, where we're still hitting them at the middle funnel best, right?
That makes sense. And you guys deploy the same creative people across both what you do with the users versus what you do for marketing. You haven't kind of segregated out the creative teams. It's the same group.
We have, but we have such a strong creative team, and they're just so brilliant, right? The kinds of things they come up with just knocks me off my feet. I'm like, they're like, we were gonna have a new birthday video, and I'm just expecting some sort of generic birthday video, and it just turns out to be hilarious, right? And they've put together some content, they've written a song, right, and built a whole video around it. Um, why not use that talent for something like marketing, right? We give them some marketing tips. We give them feedback on how can we get a user to uh, kind of laugh at this and then also take an action. So we work with them closely, but um, yeah, I think when you have that talent, you should just utilize them in your marketing campaigns. Um, and yeah, like I think that's also comes with challenges sometimes, right? In terms of a creative person learning to kind of make an ad that it's not the prettiest thing, right? You're like, I need this button to really stand out, and they're just like cringing, right? They're like, oh, it's gonna look so ugly, but you're like, hey, we can test different versions of this and see what works. It wins, and I think it's also helped our creative team over time really think about creative in those different mediums, right? How do I create good content? How do I create good content that people click on and purchase the video from?
Got it. Also, from all the celebrities and stuff that you guys have, is that a concerted effort? You guys go and hunt these guys down and say, "Hey, we want you to be part of it," or has it been more people coming and saying, "Hey, this is great, I want to be on it," or is it a mix?
It's a mix of both. We've done a lot of reaching out. We work with a lot of record labels to get access to a lot of good content. We have reached out to different artists as well, but we have a lot of people reach out to us actually for partnerships, especially when you think of how we can kind of marry our talents together, right? I think a good example of a really cool partnership that we did over Christmas that I loved was with the Jonas Brothers, right? They had this great Christmas song. There was no video for it. We worked with them and basically created a JibJab video that goes with this song and that people could, create for free, right? And get those people into our funnel, get them familiar with the product. Um, and celebrate the holidays, have a good time, right? So I think that's that's something that will continue, right? Especially as we continue to work with different partners and have these great partnerships. We brought in a great partnerships manager recently, and she's, you know, really done a great job of kind of piquing interest with a lot of our partners, and working with our partners to create good products for them, that they're excited to come on board with JibJab for. So.
Is that a effective marketing channel as well, or is it? And what I mean by that is from you hear about influencers and all that on social media. Do you look at these partnerships as a marketing tool as like influencers, or is it more of a creative side that, hey, it's fun and you'll get more retention that way by having it, or is it both?
Yeah, it's I'd say it's both, but really focused on the latter, more so than the former. We've done some influencer marketing and testing in the past. Um, Definitely hard to measure. I don't know if it truly qualifies as top of funnel in a lot of aspects, right? Um, how many of these followers are real, right? Like, you always kind of run into fraud, right, in marketing. So we haven't seen a ton of success out of the influencer side of things, but we have worked with a lot of partners. Someone like Jonas Brothers, they're real fans, right? Like, we know this. We know those fans are going to make this e-card and enjoy it, send it to their family. But we also have a decent amount of partners that are not necessarily just artists, right? So we work with Kayak, right? We work with a lot of other big brands to see how we can kind of help each other across all our products. And yeah, it's a big channel for us. I think, especially as our internal data and analytics product has improved over time, we're really able to see the impact of what's happening with partnerships, and especially at a top of funnel, what that happens in terms of what happens to the long term, right? We might not see an immediate lift in users from a partnership. But what we've seen is over 6 months, over 12 months, those partnerships do bring in a lot of new customers that we are able to retain.
That leads me to my next question on metrics. So how do you guys define what is successful and what's not successful with your media and your partnerships and the stuff you're doing? Is there any one particular, well, of course it's how many users you have, but is there anything aside from that that you look at to measure success, to say, yeah, these campaigns are successful, or this media is more successful than another?
Yeah. We definitely look at purchases, right? We look at the efficiency of those purchases. We look at things like how that user's journeying through the site, what are their channels they're hitting. Depending on the channel too, we might look at different metrics, right? So for Facebook, we might look at engagement metrics. We might also look at deeper down the funnel, like, what is that person saying about the product that we're posting, right? We also look at things like, for a Facebook user, right? Are they purchasing, right? Do they come back and purchase longer term, right? If we bring in an app user, we might say, how long does it take this person to actually purchase, right? Our app is an amazing product. It's one of the top apps in the App Store for sure. But right, we have some free content in there, right? We have some free gifts, right? So how long does it take for someone to go in, download the app, install it, right? Start using it, register, and then how long is that person using these gifts until they actually purchase an e-card? Those are all things that we look at to kind of understand our user and speak to them in different ways across our different mediums.
Do you use different mediums for acquisition versus retention, or is the same mediums for both?
Yeah, I mean, we use email definitely for retention purposes. We do use our channels for both retention and first purchase, right? So building good customer segments helps us with building things like lookalike audiences to engage a top of funnel audience that's ready to purchase, high purchase intent. But we also, look at remarketing, and we don't necessarily want to spend all of our time and efforts on remarketing in those channels, but we do look at the full user journey across all of our channels, and we try to engage them where we think it's most likely that we'll get them to purchase.
Great, thank you. I want to open it up for questions. So the millions of people that are tuning in, if you have questions for Hannah, please send them our way. Here. In the interim, tell us, you're located in LA, right?
We are, and we're going a heat wave right now that's just been it's been killer. So we're all living off our AC. I was really worried that there'd be like a rolling blackout in the middle of this, so I had to make sure my computer was fully stocked up and charged. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, the grumbling you hear in the back is not my stomach. We're actually having a storm here in Florida, so apologize for the background noise there. Any questions for him? I don't see any. So Adam, hand it back to you unless I see some questions popping up.
Awesome. No, fantastic. Great way to close it out. Yeah. And Hannah, by the way, just this whole time, the guitar collection really has my eyes drawn, by the way. We haven't covered that at all. Here's your platform. We're going to have to talk about that briefly.
Yeah, I've played guitar for about 20 years now. So, yeah, it's cool. This one right here is my dad's. It's an old Yamaha from like the 70s.
Awesome.
So cool. But yeah, definitely gotten into all the stringed instruments at one point. I'm guessing you're also a guitar player.
No, just merely a fan of someone with the time and talent and resource to invest in it. So no, I mean, look, what's one of the running themes here, right, is the new way people engage, the new way we interact, the new way we sort of share and what that means. And, JibJab really sort of at the heart of that a little bit. So I think it's, about who you are personally. I don't think ever before, at least in my career, who you are personally is so tied into how you behave professionally, right? And it sort of has pulled down the veil of this, and I'm not saying professional courtesy and professionalism is out the door, but it has pulled down the veil. It's connected us in a different way. And so I think, yeah, just who you are, especially as a marketer, right? If marketing is a study of consumer behavior, then who we are as consumers is more important than ever. So yeah, I spotted it. I was curious, and makes me think, just more about our business and the way we understand people and how you as a marketer talk to customers, right? I mean, what's your goal? Talk to your customers, find new ones, create experiences, share content. There's never been a more prevalent time for that really just foundational thinking of how we market products.
Yeah, definitely. It's true. I think a lot of my experience in music helps me ground myself and kind of understand how maybe a customer for a product that also brings people joy, how do they want to be talked to, right? How do they want to understand what our product is? So.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I love that lens. I think you have to think about it that way. I think the biggest mistake we can ever make as marketers, as product developers and engineers is, would I do that? Would I engage in that way? Like we can never forget to put our consumer hat on because we are all in it. And I think none of us, I think, would be ashamed to say that we have sort of an echo chamber in our business, right? And I think there are times when we really have to sort of shake ourselves out of it and remind ourselves that we're consumers, talk to our friends, take social polls, like how would they engage with a product, right? Let's just not think of people as audiences and targeting, but people and communication. And how do we take some of that basic foundational thinking into our business? I think we'll all benefit from it now and in every odd year that we are likely to face in our future here. So Anna, Hamid, thank you so much for closing out today's event. Awesome dialogue, awesome conversation. Thank you to everybody who participated in today's event. Special thanks to our speakers for all the education and insights today. Thank you, Cisco, for providing us a great platform. For those listening, those ready to dial into your next session, tomorrow, Brand Innovators, 1 p.m., our inaugural live cast on luxury brands. It should be an awesome event. We are going to be joined from marketing leaders from JP Morgan, Pernod Ricard, WPP, buyers, sellers, brand marketers, another fantastic group, a fantastic event. Thank you all for joining today. Everyone go out there, make an impact, be kind to someone, and have a fantastic day. And we'll see you all soon.